Welcome back to Rennie's Rental Doors, Real Estate Legends, where we talk to the people building the real estate world behind the scenes. Today I'm joined by Mahesh Shetty, founder and CEO of ILE Homes, a residential real estate investment asset management company based in Dallas, Texas. Mahesh, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it. You've had a fascinating path into real estate. You started in accounting and financial operations, and you came from organizations that were far from hard assets. What first pulled you into real estate?
Now, interesting question. Come from a business family. So I grew up in a business environment. I tell people that when I was growing up, I only had two people I knew who ever worked in companies. Uh, so either you're an engineer running your own small, company, you're a physician running your own practice, or you're a retail, owner. My dad owned restaurants, so I grew up in a family. Really didn't know anything about working for anybody when I joined. Uh, so when I joined, I was very clearly I wanted to be on the business side of the equation and not on the advisory side, or what I would call loosely the abstract side of the business. So when I came out of public accounting, um, my first job in the US was in real estate in New York City. We were buying homes in and around Times Square and repositioning them for the tourist business. This is when Times Square was really run down and, you know, dangerous, to be quite honest. So we were able to buy assets, fairly cheaply and turn them around. And as luck would have it, around the time that we were buying it, Mr. Giuliani became mayor of New York, and it really changed the safety, and really so suddenly I asked if we can valuable. Sometimes it's always good to be lucky and, when you're smart. So that's what we do. So I've been always been interested in real estate. Again, your career takes you in different directions, but I always have an eye for real estate.
Times Square, back then, was a completely different world, and my wife's family is from New York, so I've heard plenty of stories about how rough it was in the 80s.
Yes.
When you look back on that early experience, what lessons shaped the vision for your company?
The biggest lesson I learned is that you know, I, I give the example of a really close friend of mine is in the hospital right now. And I was visiting last week and you see nurses going back and forth into the room, etc. And he made the observation, which I thought really applies to every business that we are in. He said there are some nurses who walk into his room and check the vital statistic, check, and then look at him and say, hi, you know. And the other people who come to the room and first focus on him and say, how are you doing? Is everything okay? And then they go and check. They want to make sure. So the question is, do you address a patient or do you address the symptoms? Right. And I think in our space, in general, in residential housing, we are more focused on the symptoms and not the patient. Patient meaning not every customer who walks into a premise, not patient in the sense the person needs help, but the person who needs attention, right? So I think I like that analogy because I think it applies to any business you're in, and more so in our space because our customers, if they're treated right, if they're taken care of, treated right meaning not that you're going to give them free rent, but take care of them when they need, I mean, a simple thing like a work order. Our goal is to get that fixed in 48 hours, because we don't want the customer not to be him. So small things like that make a difference, the experience. And when you give them a good experience, they tell 10 people about it and then they stay longer, which makes our properties more profitable. It's a simple thing, but it's a very deep lesson in how you manage your customers.
People often describe you as a servant leader, treating others the way you'd want to be treated. In practical terms, what are the key habits or behaviors leaders should focus on day to day to build a great culture?
Well, you know, I think I think all people have some fundamental values, some core values. I was recently I was attending a speech by somebody, and they said, like when you uh, and one of the things he said was take five people that are your your role models, people you look up to. It could be God, it could be your parents, it could be a wife, it could be somebody else, it could be Abraham Lincoln or anybody else for that matter. And name three qualities in each one of those role models that makes them your role model. And then identify the common themes amongst all those role models. And you'll find that those common themes that occur with your role models are your core values, you know. And most people's core values are the same, different stages in life, sometimes you chase after money or you chase after ambition or whatever. But core, when you strip out all the other parts of your core, is you want to be of service, you want to have high integrity, and you want to be able to make a difference, right? You can give it different labels if you wanted to, but generally speaking, most people are the same. I think what we have done in our organization, and this is still a journey. This is not a destination. It's a journey. And is being able to understand and nurture the core values of our organization, nurture that to the point where everybody is singing the same, from the same sheet of music. So collectively, we have a purpose. What's a purpose? A purpose is to provide a place to call home. That's what we do, right? And that our customers should feel at home when they are in our premise. So once you kind of embrace that philosophy, everything else kind of falls into space. Its place, sorry. Anyway, uh, so
You built and scaled at a high level. What have been the biggest leadership challenges since founding the company, and how have those challenges evolved as you've grown?
I think it's in business when you build a business. I think the being paying attention, because sometimes it's easy to go lose track of um, what really drives the business forward. So we were very focused on building a financial discipline into the organization becomes part of our DNA, right? And so we don't everything that we do, what we are, how we buy assets, is useful financial discipline. It's automated. If it doesn't meet our benchmark of what an asset should be, we just don't buy it because we don't think it is right for us. And if it is not right, we don't feel right about it. We don't want to buy it, for the sake of buying something. So we are never into uh, collecting trophies. We're collecting assets that make money. So that's very important. So that particular ethic was, we had to establish that, because when you're buying, particularly in our business, we could be buying 100 homes per month. It's easier to lose sight of that discipline because you say, like who cares? Make a mistake, it's really, 1% of the whole entire portfolio. But now it's a 1% can drag down the entire portfolio. So we just want to make sure that we are batting, you know, at at a level that eliminates. I don't know, eliminates is a very aspirational word, but mitigates mistakes that we make during the process.
When it comes to acquisitions, do you personally review every home the company buys?
I don't, but as a matter of rule, we don't buy a single property without inspecting it. Zero. We always walk the property. We want to get a feel of the property. So we have people in every market who will walk the property for us. And they know what we're looking for, and and based on only after that we buy. In general, we never ever buy an asset without actually walking the property.
Your finance background clearly gives you an edge. You're disciplined, you measure risk, and you focus on outcomes. How has your restructuring and turnaround experience helped you as an SFR operator?
So I think as you know, you've been in this before. The understanding a balance sheet is critical to understanding a business. And how do you design a lot of people think, I think of design, businesses and artwork, because you basically, a lot of people look for, oh, I got, 100 million in assets. But if the other side of the balance sheet is not properly arranged, then, they don't really matter how many assets you have on the left-hand side, if you will. Um, so I think the restructuring or the turning a turnaround experience really allows me to focus on the balance sheet and saying what is the optimal amount of debt we should carry on asset so that we are not at any point of time in danger. That is, just creating the buffer. If the is a very important facet for our organization.
You've worked in multifamily too, so why single-family rentals? What made you choose SFR as the core focus?
I've been in multifamily. I've done ground up development of almost about, I was with a company, we did ground up development of almost 5,000 units, so I'm very familiar with that. I, I like SFR, frankly, because I didn't want, development in a process is always a little bit of a challenge. Uh, and I wanted to start a place where I can get scale faster, so homes is the best. But I had a larger vision in mind. I want to create my platform as a kind of a highway to home ownership for my customers. And I can't do that in family, obviously. I let people buy, but you can do that in my business, which is give them a home to stay in and make it a home for them. And over a period of time, give them the tool to get that home available to them for purchase. So I think if what is this in my mind, obviously like I said, money is important. Making a return on investment is important. But I feel that if you make all the right decisions around the financing and the acquisition, etc., those are kind of locked in place. Yeah, things will change, markets change. You can't control those things, but you just focus on things that you control and then focus on how you can make that right. I think eventually my goal is to, if I can get to a situation where I've bought it right, I finance it correctly, and now I'm managing it correctly and manage it correct and give the person an opportunity to buy. Then what I've done the best of all conceivable worlds is I've created a business which creates returns for my investors and also creates impact for customers. I think that to me is a very satisfying.
A big theme in what you're saying is impact, helping people live better lives and improve their financial situation. Do you see any trade-off between strong investment returns and doing the right thing for residents, or are those really the same goal?
Yeah, I think they're both two sides of the same coin. I don't think businesses in general can, you know, put profit motive to the exclusion of everything else. I think that is a wrong principle. I was reading an article in a journal last week about the Walmart CEO, Doug McMillan. And when he first became CEO, he had gone out and talked to a lot of his employees, and he decided at the time to increase the minimum wage of his employees from whatever it was to $9 an hour. This is about 10 years ago. And on the day he went to the Wall Street analyst and announced that, he could see the ticker of his stock keep going down. I think they lost something like 14% that day he announced it, because the perception among the investor community was, golly, that can only mean one thing. If your payroll goes up, your profits go down, right? But what has happened over the last 11 years since he's done it, and he's kept increasing the minimum wage since then. But what is shown that the Walmart stock has done extremely well is that when you take care of your employees, they take care of your customers. Another great example is Costco, right? You go to Costco, you deal with employees who are happy, like I think makes a difference. Is that how you treat your customers makes a difference. You want to go back. So I find Walmart particularly because 10 years ago, Walmart was in the headlines or not paying the employees properly. And now Walmart is, is doing the right thing. So I think it's another example of how, we can do the right thing. Businesses have an obligation to do the right thing. And I don't think the American ethos admires business people for making money, right? But they also expect a business to do the right thing. That is this constant. It's not a balancing act. It's a give and take. It's a happy balance of say you make money, but don't do it the right.
I love that. Thinking long term, not short term. That takes real discipline. When you underwrite deals, what are the key metrics that drive your decision making? And what are the red flags that make you walk away immediately?
No, I think we look for yield. We have to have a certain yield on the portfolio. Again, going back to the discipline, we have to be able to generate a little yield on the portfolio so we can make it has to make. We don't buy a single asset that when we are underwriting, if it's a chance that the asset won't make any money, we don't buy it. Right? And because our philosophy is that we are not going to subsidize one particular home. Each home, we think about that as a separate income statement. That income statement has to make money, right? And so we start with that premise. So why do we walk away from it? We walk away from anything which will put our customers in harm's way. We don't buy homes with swimming pools. We don't buy homes on Main and Main because I don't want my customers or the children going into a busy street and be in harm's way. We don't want that. We don't buy homes in floodplains. We don't do that. We don't buy homes, for example, with solar panels, because when the customer eventually buys a home, there's an additional lien on the house, and we don't want to create that particular liability on the customer. So everything we do, we try to focus on: is it a home? Is it that way you would that I would go in? The answer is no. There's really no reason. So that's and again we also have a very clear idea about our demographic. We feel that if you kind of take the slice the American economy into three buckets: the top 20%, the bottom 20%, and the middle 60%. We think the top 20% are, have been blessed. They can take care of themselves, take care of the children. They don't need us, right? The bottom 20%, are that's where our government is helping them, whatever the way they can. And we are not, we could be, but we're not in a position to help them immediately. So we are focused on this middle America, if you will, people who work really hard, but are not able to buy a home, not because they don't want to, but because they don't have the down payment assistance or the credit score, etc., to buy the home. And if we can solve that problem, again, we'll never be solving that problem 100%. But if I can make a dent in the problem, I think would have made a difference.
That's a powerful perspective. And with affordability, challenges, and housing shortages, it's clear your strategy is built around solving a real problem. I also remember you have a strong technology and data strategy. How does tech play a role across the full life cycle? Sourcing, acquisitions, leasing, maintenance, renewals, and retention.
Yeah, I mean, I think the acquisition side, as you either pointed out, all the criteria that we look at, all of that is is a software screen. So our technology is able to pull in data from all the sites, whatever site is Zillow or MLS or whatever other website you have, which has homes for sale. We're able to pull it in the system and automatically screen it for the criteria that we need. Like I told you, we don't buy homes, with pools, etc. The software automatically kicks them out. So we're only looking at homes that fit a bucket or fit a criteria, if you will. So there's one part of the technology solution. The other part of the technology solution is the inspection, meaning that we walk the property and we look at the pictures to make sure that it is a property that it will that we can fix within a reasonable budget. If we think that we cannot, then we would pass on the property. We don't buy it. All of that is technology. So once the transaction, once you decide to buy the property or the home, the contract is sent to the seller from our system. Our system does that now. And then the whole closing process is automated. Our system is able to look at the purchase price and create a HUD or a closing statement for the automatically, which we actually send to the title company. So they know, what our closing statement looks like. So it reduces the work on their side. We also have negotiated rates with the title company on what they can charge, etc. So we're saving side too. And then after the closing is done, there's an automation which lets a property member, either our construction team or the property asset management team know the property is available. So they even if there's a renovation to be done, we start the renovation immediately. Even the work order process or the bidding process for the construction happens through a system. They put in they give in a bid. We automatically, we go to three or four different people. Our system automatically identifies a person who's got a better pricing based on our experience of having dealt with them before, and then be able to give them the notice to proceed right from the system itself. And then when the customer, when our vendor is completes a job, they send the pictures over. If you like the pictures, we pay them even before they bill us. And the whole idea is to build a relationship. We don't want to, if the customer, if he's done the job, we don't want their billing process to hold up their payment. We'd rather pay them because most of the stuff, work from, job to job. So if they would like to get paid sooner as opposed to later, so we take it. So every aspect. So that is all the what I would call the operation processes, going from lead to contract, contract to sale, sale to renovate. Or in this case, buy to renovate. And then when it comes to renewal, again, our system automatically generates a comparison of what the rental rate should be, sends the renewal offer to the customer. So the whole caring and feeding of the customer after we buy the property, everything is done through the system itself. So operationally, we are very robust. We automate it. Um, but then we also layer in the analytical part of uh, which is on sitting on top the AI engine. So we have like our own kind of quasi based on our data, and the AI can query it. So I can write a question to my database and say, how much have I spent on plumbing, for example, and I just throw out a report. So we have created the rich data. Rich data allows us to analyze it, and analysis allows us to make the even property even better. So with things like, should we send the renewal notice 3 months ahead of time? How do we get the customer to renew? What are the things that we should do? How do we, can we all inspect the property? All of those things we do using our system. So proprietary to us, we call it ILE. We have built it from scratch and keep improving it every year. So we've been using it now for the last 6 years.
Thanks so much for participating, Mahesh. I learned a lot. Hoping to see you again.